have economy-driven selection of reporting currency, that is functional currency. Then we have first adoption, which is a very big challenge. If you have done a few business combinations before adopting IFRS, then you have IFRS 3. Then another very important aspect of every standards in IFRS is definitely fair valuation driven. So whatever way you think of in IFRS, we are all talking about substance over form. We are all talking about what is actually the business in the field is. So the most important challenge which we have faced is adoption for the first time, business combination, reporting currency, and changing the valuations. And finally, when if you are having 100-odd companies or 150-odd companies, you have a step-level consolidation at the parent, grandparent, and child-level consolidations. And you have intercompany holdings in such a manner, then you have to eliminate intercompany profits and transactions, etc. So most important thing is that all these 4 or 5 issues have to be first addressed.
It's a volatile day of trade,
including the market reaction.
We'll bring you the top news and the newsmakers.
NDTV profit.
The big story that is going to dominate headlines. Markets have crashed.
This is an NDTV exclusive breaking right here.
All the business you need.
Good news is the government will not exceed its borrowing target.
All the business you want.
We'll track where the state finally lands up with.
New policies could also help.
The day's biggest stories. On Profit at Night. Weeknights at 9. On NDTV Profit. Profit at Night, brought to you by JP Infratech, Indian milestone in infrastructure. And IBM, let's build a smarter planet.
April या January, monthly income zabardast. June, July या August, अब काहे की बरी.
Guaranteed monthly income plans from MetLife.
अब काहे की बरी.
कुछ अंक है सपने मेरे तुम्हारे सपने चमकते कल के मचलते उभरते कुछ बेसबर से राह मिली है सपनों को अब राह मिली है सपनों को अब राह मिली है सपनों को राहें मिली है अपनों को
बड़े से बड़ा सपना अब अपना जेपी इंफ्राटेक का यमुना एक्सप्रेसवे जो मिला रहा है सपनों को सच्चाई से. जेपी इंफ्राटेक.
They have the world hanging on their every word.
If the inspiration comes to me in a particular form, then it's a desire not to shy away from the form.
I think people are ready to take their destinies in their own hands.
The truth is that fiction is what liberates you.
I know what's war, and I learned to be afraid.
I love the circus of life. I love layering.
It took me 8 years to arrive to the conclusion, and the conclusion was the novel.
The best authors share their stories on Just Books. Saturday evening at 6 on NDTV Profit.
Considering all of the trials and tribulations that you've gone through, then IFRS, in your opinion, can't be the ultimate holy grail as far as accounting standards are concerned. What would you like to see different in IFRS? Any tweaks? I mean, I know you mentioned something about disclosures earlier in our conversation. Perhaps you can expand on that.
Yeah. As you know, we Indians since 1961 are working with Schedule 6, Part 1 and Part 2. And as an accountant with 30 years of working knowledge, my personal feeling that to done away with Schedule 6, particularly some of the disclosures which are not present today in IFRS, particularly quantitative disclosures, etc., India will find it extremely difficult to do away with all the aspects of Schedule 6. I personally feel that the regulators and the institute will do well if they selectively advise that Indian units continue to report some of the aspects of Schedule 6. In order to convert ourselves in the journey from Indian GAAP or any other native GAAP to IFRS, we do not forget the best of our Indian disclosures, yet at the same time adopt the best of the IFRS.
So, Jain, let me come to you now. I mean, given the kind of international experience that you have, as well as your experience here in India, now in the kind of situation that you have faced in the past, how would you term IFRS in terms of your challenge that you faced?
IFRS, to be taken as a message from when we leave this room, is very close to an ERP implementation. It's like a change management first and foremost. And secondly, it's about not just some finance guy sitting in a room changing the accounting standard or the framework to be reported. Everybody, whether it's in sales or materials or production, got to understand that my decision making, probably need to be analyzed or understood in an IFRS perspective, wherein a present value of future cash flows is far, far greater important than actually just a simple historical exercise or something. I think the biggest issue that I have come across always is people. With due respect to people who have worked in Europe or US, we Indians are far more, comfortable or flexible to change, and that's probably a strength that we all have. But to talk to a Canadian colleague or a Dutch colleague, you need to migrate. You need to change the way you have been doing business. An Indian parent company has acquired you, therefore you need to have a common platform. That was the biggest challenge. I think rest all, thanks to consultants, thanks to hard work, thanks to proper planning, all falls in line. If you have your people on board, if they are open to it, I guess balance all is nuts and bolts.
You said consultant, so I'm going to point my finger towards you. Change management. It's about every stakeholder in the entire value chain understanding what this happens to be, what it means for the overall organization. How do you get people to change? Because change is the hardest thing in terms of running a business.
Yeah. So I think it's got to happen at several levels. As far as the people who have to do it, first of all, I think one's got to communicate there is something in it for them. The fact that they are learning a new skill set, and we found that to be very useful with companies who have converted in the past, to tell people in the finance organization that, look, if you are somebody who's comfortable with IFRS and take the lead, you could have a skill set which will differentiate you from your peer group out in the industry. So that's kind of step one in terms of the people who do it. I think the second important part really is, you can't do this as the rest of the panel said, you can't do this in isolation of the way you run your business. The moment you link the performance measures, which are based on which the business is evaluated, the budgets, etc., to this kind of framework, automatically business will